Press the button.
I did. I was trying to turn... Oh, I'm so fucking dumb.
Okay. Care to explain?
It's just clicked. I tried to turn the audio into a transcript when I have everything written down in a script.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, I mean, my ad-libbing isn't written down anywhere.
Yeah, but I just realised that most of the story is already written. And then I turned our first episode into a transcript, and the first thing I was like, I'm gonna punch on with this microphone. Still happens. I don't like this fucking. So I have the wrong document in front of me for now. Welcome to Disorganized Detectives, where we are disorganized.
Obviously.
So we've been to Florida. We've been to
England.
Laurie Dan. Where was she from? America.
Somewhere in America.
America. We were just in England, but today we will be in Victoria, Australia.
Oh, love it.
We are in where we are now.
Yes.
Victoria is as specific as we will be getting of where we live. So, Ronald Edmund Thompson was born on the 21st of February 1925 in Carlton, Victoria, Australia.
Oh, we're old-timey.
We're old-timey. Well,
old-timey. Well, it is 100 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's about 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, 2024.
It's
99 years ago.
Almost 100 years ago.
Got 99 problems, and Ronald was one.
Yep.
It wasn't the best, but...
Carlton. Also not the best.
Not the best. Most of people connected to Jay go for Carlton. Carlton or Collingwood.
Ugh.
Where my family is North Melbourne or Collingwood. A lot of Collingwood.
I'm a Damon supporter through and through.
Yes.
Beck's a Collingwood supporter.
Who did they verse the other day?
Melbourne. That was the Cats. Geelong.
I don't know what game I'm thinking of.
Or maybe it was Carlton. Fuck. It was someone, but we lost by one, and it was...
It was a football team.
It was a game, and I have tried to wipe it from my memory because I was very disappointed in my boys.
You're very like, oh, football. I'm like, dear, sports ball. I have no idea about sports.
Have a ball.
Lots of sports and balls.
Sports balls.
I think the only sport, quote unquote, I've ever gotten into is wrestling.
Uh-huh.
I went to the wrestling.
There's no balls in that sport.
Oh.
I mean, there is.
If their pants are tight enough. We went to the, when they came to Australia in 2014? 2013.
Who's they? Like just the whole of wrestling?
A few of them. And then Roman Reigns would come out through the crowd, and when we were standing, he was like right under me. I was like, I could fucking jump down and
wrestle him?
Take him home.
Also, it was Carlton that we played last week.
Oh, there you go.
Melbourne played Carlton last week.
Things were connecting in my head because I'm forced to not watch, but in the general vicinity of the football while it's on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I bought a John Cena t-shirt that was $50, and my mum bought tickets for herself to go and then asked me if I wanted to go. Oh, she was into it, and then I slowly got into it after she'd bought the tickets. And then one of my good friends at school, she's into it as well. And so mum bought us tickets, but we're on opposite sides of fucking Rod Laver Arena because we'd bought them so differently. And yeah, because we were on one side when there was a break. Me and my friend went out, and I was like, I don't think I had like a bank account then. I had no way of like getting to mum to get cash to then buy a t-shirt, and my friend was buying one anyway. And I was like, oh, when we get like meet up with mum, like I rang her. I was like, when we meet up with you, like you can transfer money, whatever. So that was sorted. Bought the John Cena t-shirt, which I still have. And then on the way to the car park, I found $50 on the floor, which covered the cost of the t-shirt.
Look at you go.
Fun times. John Cena. Also, the John Cena theme song used to be my ringtone when I was in high school.
Wow.
Learning
so much. Last episode we had a James Bond theme.
Hawaii Five-0.
Hawaii Five-0 theme.
Now we've got
a little bit of John Cena.
So what was this guy's name? Not John. Ronald.
Oh yeah, we're doing a
we're doing a case. We're in Carlton, remember?
Yep, I'm with ya.
1925. So he was born at the Royal Women's Hospital to John Ronald Ryan and Cecilia Thompson. I love the name Cecilia. Cecilia already had a son with her first husband, George Harry Thompson. Cecilia and George had separated in 1915 when George left to fight in the Great War. Probably wasn't that great. The relationship never resumed.
Oh.
George shortly died in 1927 by falling from a tram and getting hit by a car.
Fucking all right.
Gee, yeah.
That.
I think that's why they made you stop at the back of the tram now.
Don't run over people whilst exiting the tram.
Yeah. Cecilia met John Ryan while working as a nurse in Woods Point, where he was suffering from lung disease. They formed a relationship in 1924 and later married in 1929. Ronald then adopted the name Ronald Edmund Ryan, and in 1936 Ryan was confirmed into the Roman Catholic Church.
Uh-huh.
Our favourite religion.
Fucking, yep.
He took as his confirmation name Joseph, becoming Ronald Edmund Joseph Ryan.
Yeah.
He apparently did not like Edmund, and from then on used Joseph Ryan. Nope. Ronald Joseph Ryan. Do you have a confirmation name?
No, I didn't do one of them.
Oh, mine's Bernadette. Because like Nan's Bernadette, Mum's Bernadette, my cousin's Bernadette. Just a lineage. That's the one of Bernadette confirmation name.
What a name to choose.
Yep.
I didn't do one of those things because religion and I don't make friends.
Oh, that was just
no.
You did your.
Again, there's too many religions in my family. To pick one.
We're very me and my cousins all went to. I don't know maybe. I don't know.
I went to a Catholic high school.
Yeah.
But I'm not religious of any form.
I went to Catholic primary school and then Catholic high school. Most non-religious person.
My nan's a Jehovah's Witness.
Oh.
My grandma, I think, is Church of England, possibly. My pa was I think, a Catholic or a Christian, something.
Jesus.
I don't know. There was a bunch of different ones.
Too many.
My parents didn't grow up religious, even though their parents kind of were.
Yeah.
And so we just never did. And also, I'm so fucking glad I'm not because, ew.
It's very...
culty.
Yes. What's Jay? Christian?
Something.
I know it's not Catholic, but I think he's Christian, but they used to go to like a Baptist church.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, there's a lot of fucking things there.
Yep.
Following the theft of a watch from a neighbour's house in Mitcham in November 1936, the trouble of the Ryan children was brought to the attention of the state welfare authorities. Ronald was sent to Rupert's Wood,
Rupert's Wood?
Yeah?
Yeah?
What?
Yeah?
Do
Sorry, continue.
Why did you say it like that?
I don't know. Continue.
So you can be like, oh, that fucking place. The Saleson Orders School for the Orphaned, Wayward and Neglected Boys in Sunbury.
Yeah. Rupert's Wood for the wayward, neglected boys.
It took one Google search to find articles about the school, and as you can imagine, they were not great.
No, there's a lot of scandals from there.
One of them from the Sydney Morning Herald was titled The Hell House.
Yep.
It said, at the end of a winding road overlooking Sunbury is Rupert's Wood, an ornate 1874 mansion that today serves as a boutique hotel. But the grand residence, where butlers and doormen wait on guests paying up to $500 a night was for decades a house of horror. It is alleged that from 1960 to 1990, when Rupert's Wood was a Catholic boarding and day school, Saleson brothers, including 2 former school principals and a boarding master, routinely abused boys in their care.
Oh my God.
Well,
I've never heard of Catholic people abusing little boys. Oh my, what?
At a boys' home?
No way.
Crazy.
Would never occur. Religion doesn't do that.
Well, that was alleged from 1960 to 1990. He was there in 1936.
Oh,
so
yeah. I don't think the 1960s.
I don't think it got better. Like
anyone abused boys in a Catholic boys' home. Just saying.
Well, it's like St. Joseph's in Ballarat.
It hasn't gotten any better. Thank you, George Powell.
When my father grew up. I'll get the Ouija board out and ask him what it was like.
Yeah. Hey, Dad,
George Pell.
what did he do?
What happened? The story of Rupert's Wood is one of the most disturbing to emerge ahead of the Royal Commission on Institutional Sex Child Abuse. Yet alleged victims and former students say the truth about what happened is not yet to be fully revealed.
I don't think anyone will ever know.
Yeah, because some people aren't going to want to come forward and be like, that priest touched me doodle.
Also, some will be dead
Yeah.
and have gone to the grave with those
Or are
secrets.
so like blocked out. They're like, I don't even remember going there.
Yep, didn't go. Don't know what you're talking about.
That didn't happen. They paint a picture of repeated assaults, both sexual and physical, of brothers habitually haunting dormitories and infirmaries for victims, and of beating and acts of perversion that persisted for decades. In one alleged episode aired in court recently, boys sleeping in the school infirmary had their drinks of Milo drugged before waking to hear the cries of a boy being abused. It's very Australian, isn't it? The
Milo.
roofing Milo.
Roofie me Milo.
They wouldn't have given you a good fucking ratio either.
No, it would have tasted all like roofie and not like Milo.
Oh, roofing no Milo. Gonna get that on a t-shirt. All roofie, no Milo. Another student told the court of a separate incident in which he was given a glass of lemonade before waking to find a priest raping him.
Yeah. Okay. Roofie me lemonade too.
At least it wasn't Milo.
Fuck. Mm-hmm.
Priests were, after all, devout men of God who were beyond reproach and often invited to dinner by parents.
Priests.
Could you imagine getting molested by a priest and
That
then
comes to dinner?
yeah, your parents like, stop over-exaggerating.
Don't tell lies. He is a man of God.
He's a man of God. We'll
He
have him for
doesn't
dinner.
want to touch your doodle.
Let him touch your Milo.
Roofie your Milo. Touch your doodle. I mean, let him touch your Milo if you want.
I wouldn't share my Milo.
No.
I can't do sharing drinks. I can share food, but
You don't share Milo anyway because Milo is fucking delicious.
I haven't had Milo in years.
I love a good Milo.
I'm gonna get Milo on my way home.
This is your home.
Oh, from you live here, stupid. I mean, like when I pick up Logan on my way home.
Okay, gotcha.
Is this? We're just squatting. Oh Jesus. Dinner. So Ronald was sent to the Hull House in Sunbury, and his sisters were sent to the Good Shepherd Convent in Collingwood. I'm sure that was much better. Ronald. A girl.
On another note,
Oh.
our lunch delivery time has now changed to 1:40 p.m.
Yeah, they're never great. It's always like maybe 20 minutes,
Just
maybe
want
4
my
hours.
Maccas.
Macca's, sponsor us.
Please.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Ronald ran away from Rupert's Wood. God, that's a fucking tongue twister.
Ran away from Riverswood.
In September 1939, and with his half-brother George, worked in and around Balranald, New South Wales. Spare money earned from sleeper cutting and kangaroo shooting was sent to his mother, who was looking after their sick alcoholic father.
Yep.
Such an Aussie thing, like, yep, spare money
Shoot some
from
kangaroos.
kangaroo shooting was
Yep.
sent to the alcoholic father.
Yeah.
At the age of 20, Ronald had saved enough money to rent a house in Balranald. He collected his mother and sister, and they lived together in this house. Ronald's father, John, stayed in Melbourne and died a year later at age 62 after a long battle with Meniere's disease, phthisis, tuberculosis. Aged about 22, Ronald decided to join his brother, who was tomato farming near Tatura, Victoria. He started visiting Melbourne on weekends, and during one of these weekend trips, Ronald met his future wife, Dorothy Janet George.
Dorothy the dinosaur?
Dorothy, that's exactly who he married. On the 4th of February 1950, Ronald married Dorothy at St. Stephen's Anglican Church.
That's not Catholic.
No, in Richmond, Victoria. He converted from Roman Catholicism to the Church of England to marry her.
Ah,
Oh, beautiful.
more religion.
Yay! Dorothy was the daughter of the mayor of the Melbourne suburb of Hawthorne. Right. Yeah.
She must be living it up.
Lots of Milo money.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe no roofie.
Maybe. Well.
Maybe all Milo, no roofie.
That'd be ideal. Ryan and Dorothy had 3 daughters, Janice, Wendy and Rhonda, and their 4th baby was unfortunately stillborn. After spending a few months working for his father-in-law as a trainee mechanic, Ronald decided that more money could be made cutting timber near Marysville and Licola.
What's it near?
Kind of near King Lake. Warburton. Oh, where am I going? Yarra Ranges National Park.
Bright? No, wrong way. Isn't it?
What am I thinking of near Ballarat? Ballarat. Meredith? No. What was the one that was on fire?
Many of them.
Maryborough.
Okay. Yep. Not the same place.
No. Both have Mary in the name though.
Anyway.
Anywho, he was cutting timber in Marysville, not Maryborough. When it was too wet to cut timber, Ronald got a job painting for the State Electricity Commission, and by 1952, the Ryan family was living in Newgie. Don't know where that is either.
I've heard of that one as well. Where's Newgie? I'm learning so much.
we're learning so much about the state we've lived in. Newgie is near Warrigal.
It's just like a
It's
hop,
near
skip, and a
Maryville.
jump from Marysville.
So he went there. Trouble with the law started when his rented house burnt down. Ronald was away for the weekend in Melbourne when the arsonist struck. The arsonist was caught and claimed that Ronald had put him up to it in order to claim the insurance money. When his first appearance in court was in Warrigal,
Yes, gotcha.
in 1953, he was acquitted on the charge of arson. In 1956, Ronald appeared in a court for passing bad checks in Dandenong. He was given a bond. His next appearance in court was after he issued a large number of forged checks in Warrnambool. He got around.
Yeah.
Warrnambool's fucking the other side. His partner was caught with the goods purchased with the bad checks and handed Ronald over to the police. He received another good behaviour bond after the arresting detective gave a favourable character reference on Ronald's behalf. After being apprehended for robbery in April 1960, Ronald and his accomplices escaped from the Melbourne City Watch House but were recaptured several days later. On the 17th of June 1960, Ronald pleaded guilty in the Melbourne Court of General Sessions to 8 charges of breaking and stealing and 1 of escaping from legal custody. He was sentenced to 8.5 years imprisonment. Ronald first served prison at Bendigo Prison. Here, under Ian Grindlay, who would later become the governor of Pentridge Prison, he appeared to want to rehabilitate himself. His time in prison was productive and he exhibited a disciplined approach to study, completing his level certificate, which is the equivalent to 11 years of formal schooling. And he was studying for his matriculation, which is year 12, essentially. And he, when he was released on parole in August 1963, he was regarded by the authorities as a model prisoner. After working as a clerk for a couple of months, Ronald went to lunch and never returned.
Yep.
There was one of my old jobs, the chick that got hired before me did that.
She's going on my lunch break.
Yeah, she literally
Forever.
was like, I'm going to lunch, and never came back, and then I got the job, so oh well. He had started robbing butchers' shops and used explosives to blow their safes.
Okay.
Ronald and 2 accomplices were caught after a butcher shop robbery on the 4th of January 1964. He was charged with breaking and entering and theft offences on the 6th of January 1984. Bailed on February...
Wait, we went from 64 to 84?
What did I say? They both say 64.
You said 84 for the second one.
We're still in 1964.
I was going to say. Okay, yep, continue.
That's a long fucking time waiting to get charged.
Yeah, 20 years.
No, 1964.
Gotcha.
Bailed on February 3rd, Ronald skipped town and fled to New South Wales. He later admitted to 9 robberies in New South Wales between the 4th of April and the 11th of June 1964. On a visit home on the 14th of July, he was caught by Victorian police in the early hours of the next morning. On the 13th of November 1964, he received an 8-year prison sentence for breaking and entering. He was sent to Pentridge Prison.
Pentridge.
Pentridge Prison.
Pentridge Prison.
I fucked that up anyway. HM Prison Pentridge was an Australian prison that was...
Just FYI, just thought I'd throw it out there, but HM Prison
Her Majesty?
Her Majesty's Prison.
Her Majesty?
Magistry?
I'm
Her
okay.
Magistry at Pentridge. Her
Pentridge.
Majesty's Prison.
Why? Because of the Queen.
Yes, because we are part of the Commonwealth here in Australia.
Well, now there's no Queen.
Well, it's the King. Still part of the Commonwealth.
Might be gone soon. Could only hope.
Uh-huh.
I'm just interested to see what would happen when there's a younger generation now.
Yeah.
Because
ruling.
what's William? 40s?
I don't know.
Oh.
Probably.
Better than someone in their 80s, 70s.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just wish the Queen got to 100 to get a letter from herself
Yeah.
for her 100th birthday. Oh, well, rest in peace, Lizzie. Pentridge was an Australian prison that was first established in 1851 in Coburg, Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
The first prisoner arrived in 1851 and the prison officially closed on the 1st of May 1997. You're vibrating.
Yeah, I am. Awkward.
Pentridge was often referred to as the Bluestone College, Coburg College, or College of Knowledge.
Yeah.
Rhymey.
Now there's a brewery in there.
That's a really hard word for me to say, so that's cool.
Also, there's apartments.
There's a movie theatre, isn't there?
I don't know, but there's
Oh.
apartment building. Like, people can live inside Pentridge, and there's a brewery.
No, thank you. Where I used to live in Pascoe.
I've been to the brewery.
Oh, maybe we should do a tour there. Do one of their ghost tours?
Oh, they also have like a restaurant as well, inside the halls of Pentridge Prison.
Could you?
You just go have some
Table 4.
chips.
This is where Ned Kelly died. He didn't die in Pentridge. Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
Did
He was
he?
in Pentridge. The prisoners were split. Oh, no, wait. Sorry. This is the division. I thought this was a list of prisoners. I'll give you the list of prisoners. And then we'll go back to the divisions of it. Some notable prisoners to be put in Pentridge were Gary Webb, who we will touch on in an upcoming episode. Peter Dupas.
No, he died at Old Melbourne Jail,
Ah.
not Pentridge.
He was in Pentridge, though. I have Ned Kelly on my list right here.
He probably did go there, but he
didn't
died
die
at Old
there.
Melbourne Jail.
We could even go to Ned Kelly's house. It's like 10 minutes away.
We could.
Pretty sure it's probably just a brick on the floor now. Peter Dupas, who was an American serial killer. Keith Ferrar, who was a criminal in the Melbourne gangland killings.
Righto.
Julian Knight, the Hoddle Street shooter.
Yep.
Eddie Leonsky, the brownout strangler.
That sounds wrong.
Craig Minogue, the Russell Street bomber. Harry Power. Didn't nearly read that as Harry Potter. Harry Potter wasn't in Pentridge. He was
No.
in Hogwarts. He was a bushranger associated with Ned Kelly. Mark Chopper Reed, who was a gang leader.
Chopper Reed.
And Uncle Jack Charles, who's an
I know Jack Charles.
indigenous actor and Aboriginal activist.
Yes, he died last year.
He was, very recent, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The last year of 2022.
I thought that was last year.
No,
That was
we're in
last year.
2024. We're nearly
We
halfway
are.
through
We are
2024.
actually. Shit, yeah.
The prison was split into many divisions, named using letters of the alphabet. So in A, you had short and long-term prisoners of good behaviour during the late 1980s till its closure. It became a scene of many monthly bashing, stabbings and bludgeonings. B, long-term prisoners with behaviour problems. C, vagabonds and short-term prisoners. Do you know what a vagabond is?
All I know is it's in one of the Disney songs.
What?
Vagabonds and some.
Drops on vagabonds
No,
and short
not that
little
one.
kittens. A person who wanders from place to place without a home or job. Oh. I thought it was going to be like a scallywag or one of them. Can you feel the love tonight, apparently?
It is, yeah. It's enough to make kings and vagabonds believe the very best.
Ah.
Can you feel the love tonight? How it's laid to rest. It's enough to make kings and vagabonds.
Wow, did not know that.
We can cut that whole section out, thanks.
People need to know. D was the remand prisoners.
Yep.
E, the hospital, later turned into a dormitory division housing short-term prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
F, remand and short-term. G, psychiatric problems. H, high security, discipline and protection. J, young offenders group, later for long-term prisoners with record of good behaviour. And Jika, maximum security, high risk for protection, later renamed K division. They went through the whole fucking alphabet up until that, and they're like, we're up to K, let's call it Jika.
Yeah. I don't know, but I work with a couple of people that used to work at Pentridge.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. There's some stories that they have to tell.
I could imagine. Mum went to I think for Christmas one year. There was 1 year for like birthday, Mother's Day and Christmas. I just kept giving her Red Billion vouchers. And there was like, I think one was a Pentridge ghost tour. One was another ghost tour.
I've been on the Old Melbourne Jail ghost tour. That's cool.
I've never been to a ghost tour. I can do murder, can't do ghosts.
I also did the ghost tour at the asylum.
Larundel?
No.
Oh. I've been there. Not legally. Not like incarcerated. Like not as a patient, but...
Like as in you broke in?
Yeah.
Because I have to.
I cut my hand on the window coming out.
Yeah, they're also now apartments.
One of the pub we go for trivia, one of the girls, I think she lives there.
Yeah.
Because they go to like RMIT or whatever's near there.
Yeah, Latrobe.
That's the one.
Yeah. What's with people living in these old scary places with ghosts and shit?
Are they cheap because they're haunted?
I don't know, but I wouldn't do it.
But yeah, that was a little rundown of Pentridge. Very, very brief rundown of Pentridge. So Ronald. After Ronald was sentenced...
Beechworth Asylum is where I did a tour of.
I haven't done any of them. I would do one during the day. Not night, though. That's a bit too...
But they're so good.
But they're scary.
Nah.
So after Ronald was sentenced to Pentridge Prison, he was placed in B Ward, where he met fellow prisoner Peter John Walker, who was serving a 12-year sentence for a bank robbery. When Ronald was informed that his wife was seeking a divorce, he made plans to escape from prison, and Peter Walker decided to go along with him.
Yes, Peter. Get it, boy.
It's like a budget Aussie version of Alcatraz. Escape from Alcatraz.
Prison break.
Ronald planned to take himself and his family and flee to Brazil, which did not have any extradition treaty with Australia. At around 2:07 p.m. on Sunday, 19th of December 1965, Ronald and Peter put the escape plan into effect. As prisoners were taking turns attending a staff Christmas party in the officers' mess hall, they scaled a 5-meter prison wall with the aid of 2 wooden benches, a hook, and blankets.
Yep.
Running along the top of the wall to a prison watchtower, they overpowered prison warden Helmut Lung.
Helmut Lung?
I know. Why would you name a kid Helmut? And took his M1 carbine. It's a gun. Ronald threatened Helmut and demanded he pull the lever to open. What?
Helmut? Just threatened Helmut.
Poor Helmut. They demanded he pull the lever to open the prison tower gate. Helmut, however, deliberately pulled the wrong lever. Ronald, Peter, and Helmut then proceeded. I always do that to Jay. Like, if it's turn the TV on, I'm like, pull the lever, Kronk.
Wrong lever.
Ronald, Peter, and Helmut then proceeded down the steps to the tower gate, but it would not open. At the bottom of the stairs was the night officers' lodge. When Ronald realized Helmut had tricked him, oh no. He jabbed the rifle into his back and marched him back up the stairs so he could pull the correct lever to open the tower gate. The 2 escapees then exited through the gate into the prison car park. To the escapees' dismay, there were only 2 cars in the car park and one had a flat tire.
Oh, no.
However, they did encounter prison chaplain Brigadier James Hewitt of the Salvation Army. The escapees grabbed Hewitt and used him as a shield. Ronald, armed with a rifle, pointed it at Hewitt and demanded his car. When Hewitt told Ronald that he did not have his car that day, Ronald rifle butted him in the head and causing serious injuries.
Ouch.
Poor Reverend? Chaplain?
Chaplain.
Is that like a reverend?
I don't know.
Uh-huh. The escapees then left the badly injured Hewitt with Ronald running out to Champ Street directly in front of the southwest corner of the prison and Peter running south across Church Street towards the adjacent Roman Catholic Church on Sydney Road.
So many churches, so many Catholics,
Yeah.
religion everywhere.
Just get rid of him. Prison officer Bennett had his rifle aimed at Peter and ordered him to halt or he would shoot. Peter took cover under the small wall that bordered the church. The prison alarm was raised by Warden Lang and it began to blow loudly, indicating a prison escape. It all sounds pretty cool. It gets... someone dies.
Well, that's no good.
No. George Hodson, who had been having lunch in the prison officers' mess hall near the number 1 post, responded to Lang's whistle. Bennett shouted to George that he had a prisoner, Peter Walker, pinned down behind the low church boundary wall. George headed for Peter, then the two grappled, but Peter managed to break free, so George began hitting him over the head with a piece of pipe. Peter was faster than George, but George continued to chase him with the pipe still in his hand, and both men ran towards the armed Ronald. Meanwhile, confusion and noise were increasing around the busy intersection of Sydney Road and O'Hay Street and across to Champ Street intersection, with Ronald waving the rifle around trying to get cars to stop so he could commandeer them and people ducking for cover between cars. Frank and Pauline Jeziorski were travelling south on Champ Street and had slowed to give way to traffic on Sydney Road when Ronald, armed with a rifle, appeared in front of their car.
Oh.
Ronald threatened the driver and his wife to get out of the car. The driver turned his car off, put it in neutral, and got out of his vehicle. Ronald got in via the driver's door. But surprisingly, his wife, Pauline, refused to get out of the car.
On you, Pauline.
She's like, I've been fucking around all day.
I am not leaving this car.
She was persuaded by Ronald to get out of the car, only to come back to get her handbag. She's like, fuck's sake, take my car, you're not taking my handbag. Warden William Mitchinson was first to reach the car and grabbed Ronald through the driver's window and told him, the game's up. It sounds like such a...
It's like a movie.
Yeah. In frustration, Ronald forced William Mitchinson to back off and then got out of the passenger side door and noticed Peter Walker running towards them, being chased by George Hodson, who was holding a pipe in his hand. Peter was shouting frantically to Ronald that prison guard William Bennett, standing on the number 2 prison tower, had his rifle aimed at them. At this time, Ronald took a couple of steps forward, raised his rifle, aimed at George Hodson, and fired. George Hodson fell to the ground. He had been struck by a single bullet that exited through his back, about an inch lower than the point of entry in his chest. George Hodson died in the middle of Sydney Road.
Poor George.
Poor George. Ronald and Peter ran past George Hodson and commandeered a blue Standard Vanguard sedan on Sydney Road from its driver, Brian Mullins. With Peter driving and Ronald in the passenger seat, the car travelled through an adjacent service station and then west along O'Hay Street. Ronald and Peter successfully eluded their pursuers outside Pentridge Prison. Fucking so fucking words.
You wrote this. Why'd you use so many P's?
Because it sounds good until you say it out loud. And drove away before changing cars. They then made their way south following the Moonee Ponds Creek to change cars again before hiding in a safe house in Kensington provided by Norman Harold Murray. The following day, the men moved into Christine Atkins' flat in Ormond Road, Elwood. The prison escape dominated the newspapers and other media. One newspaper reported that Ronald Ryan, serving time for burglary, seized a prison officer and shot him 3 times, twice in the chest and once in the back. Yeah, he only got shot once.
He got shot once. I mean, he died. It's awful. Getting shot
Bit dramatic,
once
though.
is enough.
Yeah, you don't need to shot him 3 times. On the 23rd of December, Ronald and Peter robbed an ANZ bank in North Road, Ormond. They herded 13 people into the bank's strong room and stole £4,500. We're on pounds back then.
What would that be in today's money?
It says in 1966, the official currency was... it was only a year later that we changed to $1.
How much was it?
4,500 Australian pounds. Because it said an Australian pound, when it converted, was the equivalent to $2 Australian. So it'd be like $9,000 back then, which is $144,964.29, apparently.
So a lot of fucking money.
A lot of money.
Mm.
Wouldn't be too bad.
Mm.
On the 24th of December, 1965, the Victorian government announced a $6,000 pound.
£6,000?
$200,000, roughly.
£6,000?
£6,000 dollar. 6,000 monies were awarded for the information leading to the capture of Ronald Ryan and Peter Walker. It was reported in The Age that the Chief Secretary and Attorney General, Arthur Ryler, had issued a warning to the escapees that the killing of George Hodson during the prison escape was the worst Victoria had known and that the Hanging Act was still in force. That night on Christmas Eve, there was the worst that Australia... I think that's a bit dramatic as well. That night on Christmas Eve, there was a party at Christine Aiken's flat where the two had been hiding out. A petty criminal, John Fisher, who knew Ronald, and Arthur Henderson, who was Christine's boyfriend, were there. After all the beer had been consumed, Peter Walker and Arthur Henderson left to find
some more beer?
To find a sly grog in Albert Park for more drinks. A sly grog, you ask? Is a shop or shanty is an Australian term for an unlicensed hotel, liquor store or other vendor, sometimes with the added suggestion of selling poor quality alcoholic beverages. I don't even know what the equivalent of that is.
I don't think they still exist.
Yeah, an unlicensed bottle shop.
It's basically a bottle-o, but
with
illegal.
Poor quality alcoholic beverages.
Yeah, it's an illegal
Aldi.
Like a speakeasy.
Yeah.
Kinda.
That'd be cool.
I want a speakeasy.
Just make one.
I will.
Put a trapdoor.
Yeah.
Not a trapdoor, a secret door.
With a secret knock and everything.
Yeah.
Password changes every day.
Yeah. They're like, password. Sneaky thing. Again, audio. No one can see me.
Yep.
An hour later, Peter returned alone to the flat. He had killed Arthur in a Middle Park toilet block, having shot him in the back of the head.
Okay. Okay.
Just chaos. Peter and Ronald left the flat very quickly and returned to the safe house in Kensington. On the 29th of... Did he get... Oh, Christmas Eve he fucking murdered. On
A petty criminal.
Just...
Murdered a petty criminal.
No, they were friends with the petty criminal.
Oh.
I don't know why the petty criminal was mentioned. That was the boyfriend of the chick who was hiding them out. And he killed him.
So they just killed Christine's boyfriend.
Yeah.
Oh.
They're like, oh, thanks for letting us hide out here as we escaped.
Let's not go to the Sly Grog and I'll just shoot you in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Just for fun.
Ridiculous. Peter, they went back. On the 26th of December, Christine and another woman were charged with harbouring the criminals. They came forward after Arthur was killed and the escapees had left. The charges were later dropped against the women.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. You just were harbouring criminals.
Just harbour.
No
but your boyfriend did just get murdered.
True, yeah. But, like, I mean, you did harbour criminals.
Yeah. It's only a couple of days, though. Norman Murray gave Ronald and Peter the job of picking up a car in Sydney and returning with it. Ronald and Peter left for Sydney on the 1st of January 1966 and arrived on January 2nd. After arriving in Sydney, Ronald and Peter endeavoured to establish some safe houses. Ronald also wanted to make contact with a woman he knew when he was in Sydney years ago. She was not home, but her daughter was. He had made arrangements to meet the woman and the daughter at Concord Repatriation Hospital on the evening of January 6th. Unknown to Ronald, the daughter recognised him and tipped off the police.
Yes.
Acting on the information, Detective Inspector Ray Gunner Kelly was alerted about their presence. That's a pretty cool name.
Ray Gunner Kelly.
Ray Kelly, with a heavily armed group of 50 police officers and detectives, set a trap. When the escapee's car pulled up near the hospital, Ronald walked over to a nearby telephone box, but it had been deliberately put out of order, so he had to walk over to a neighbouring shop and ask to use the phone there. The owner had been instructed to tell Ronald that his phone was also out of order, and as he walked out of the shop, he was tackled by 6 detectives, dropping his loaded .32 revolver that he'd been carrying. At the same moment, Detective Sergeant Fred Krahe? It's K-R-A-H-E. Krahe? Thrust a shotgun through the car window, and held it at Peter Walker's head, and he was captured without a struggle. You'd imagine not having much of a struggle when a gun's at your head.
Yeah, maybe not.
Ronald and Peter had been on the run for 19 days.
And killed 2 people.
Well, yeah. Well, Ronald didn't. Killed 2 people.
Well, they killed 1 each.
Well, it's questionable once you hear the rest of it.
Okay.
In the boot of the car, police found 3 pistols, a shotgun, and 2 rifles, all fully loaded, an axe, a jemmy, crowbar. Don't know why they called it a jemmy, because you jemmy things open.
Jimmy the door open.
Yeah. 2 coils of rope, a hacksaw, and 2 boiler suits.
Okay, so for more robberies.
Yeah, very weird. But they did just pick up the car for the other guy.
Yeah, true.
So they might not have even known
what was in there.
Yeah. Ronald and Peter were extradited back to Melbourne, where they were jointly tried for the murder of George Hodson. It is alleged that Ronald made 3 verbal confessions to police while being extradited to Melbourne. According to police, he admitted to them he had shot prison officer George Hodson. These verbal allegations were not signed by Ronald, and he denied making such verbal or written confessions to anyone. Peter Walker was also tried for the shooting murder of Arthur Henderson during the period when they were on the run. On the 15th of March 1966, the case of the Queen versus Ryan and Walker began in the Supreme Court of Victoria. The Crown's case presented no scientific evidence. The fatal bullet and the spent cartridge casing were never recovered, so no ballistic or forensic evidence was available to prove that Ronald had fired the fatal shot. The Crown's case relied only on eyewitnesses who were near Pentridge Prison when George Hodson was shot and killed. Each eyewitness testified to a different account of what they saw and where Ronald was standing. 11 eyewitnesses swore they saw him waving and aiming his rifle. There were variations whether he was standing, walking, or squatting at the time a single shot was heard, and whether he was to the left or right of George. Only 4 eyewitnesses testified that they saw Ronald fire a shot. 2 eyewitnesses testified they saw smoke coming from his rifle, and 2 testified they saw his weapon recoil. At trial, all prison officers testified that they did not see George Hodson carrying anything, and they did not see George hit Peter Walker. Because, the prison officers are going to be like, no, he definitely had a metal pipe and he was definitely bashing a prisoner.
Yeah.
However, 2 eyewitnesses, Lewis Bailey and Keith Dobson, testified they saw George carrying something like an iron bar or baton as he was chasing after Peter. Governor Grindlay testified that he did not see a bar near George Hodson's body, but that he found one after Hodson's body was loaded into an ambulance. The Crown also relied upon unrecorded, unsigned testimony that Ronald had allegedly verbally confessed to shooting George. Be like, no, he definitely said to me. No one else heard it. He didn't write it down, but he confessed.
It was just to me.
No proof, but he did say it.
And if he said it, that means he did it.
Whoever smelt it, dealt it. That is the rules.
I don't make the rules. I just tell them.
Detective Sergeant K.P. Bill Walters told the court that on the 6th of January 1966, the day after his recapture in Sydney, Ryan said, "In the heat of the moment, you sometimes do and act without thinking. I think this is what happened with Hodson. He had no need to interfere. He was stupid. He was told to keep away. He grabbed Pete and hit him with an iron bar. He caused his own death. I didn't want to shoot him. I could have shot him a lot more." So apparently his confession. Detective Senior Constable Harry Morrison told the court that on the 7th of January 1966, during the flight returning Ronald back to Melbourne, he said, "The warden spoiled the whole show. If he had not poked his great head into it, he would not have got shot. It was either him or Pete."
Righto.
The Crown also called the 2 bank officers from the bank that Ronald and Peter robbed. Robert Sipthorpe and George Robertson testified that Ronald said, "This is the gun that shot that man the other day."
Okay.
Why? Like, get in the safe. This is the gun. Yeah, I can see it. I could. Yeah. They add it all together. It's something that could be said. The defense pointed to various substantial discrepancies in the Crown's case. While some eyewitnesses testified they saw Ronald to the east of George when a single shot was heard, other eyewitnesses testified Ronald was to the west of him. Philip Opus produced a human skeleton as a visual aid to explain the trajectory of the fatal bullet. Opus argued that the ballistic evidence indicated that the fatal bullet entered Hodson's body in a downward trajectory.
Okay.
He also had a Monash University mathematics professor, Terry Speed, to explain that Ronald, who was 5'8", would have to have been 8'3" to have fired that shot.
Yep. Okay.
I don't know anyone that's 8'3". I barely know people that are 6'3".
I don't know anyone that big.
8 foot, that would be fucking
That's huge.
Shaq. How tall's Shaq?
No idea.
Shaq's 7'1".
Yeah, so even bigger. Yeah, nah.
You'd have to be taller than Shaq
Yeah.
to have fired that shot.
Yeah, all right.
These calculations are based on Ronald being 20 feet from George and George standing perfectly upright. The bullet would enter George's body 62 inches from the ground and exit 61 inches from the ground. If the shot was in a downward angle, the bullet would have hit the road 40 feet from where Hodson was hit. It also suggests that Hodson could have been shot from another elevated point and possibly by another prison officer.
Oh.
Because I don't know if I mentioned it again, but remember how I said when Peter was running at him, he's like, the guy in the tower is pointing a gun at us?
Perhaps.
That'd be closer to 8 feet than a 5'8". I'm 5'8". Like,
Perhaps the other officer accidentally shot him whilst aiming.
it's a very strong possibility, I feel, after looking into this case. It would cast doubt that Ronald had fired the fatal shot. Ronald testified that he had kept his rifle to prove his innocence in the event of recapture, as he knew that forensic microscopic markings on the spent bullet would prove that it was not fired from his rifle. Despite extensive search by the police, neither the fatal bullet nor the spent cartridge were ever found. I get Sydney Road's busy, but like,
Come on.
if this happened, I'm sure all the traffic would stop.
Yeah.
Although all prison authorized rifles were the same M1 carbine type, scientific forensic testing of the bullet would have proved which rifle fired the fatal shot. Every rifle leaves a microscopic, unique marker on the fired bullet as it travels through the barrel of the rifle. All of the bullets in Ronald's M1 carbine rifle could be accounted for. If he cocked the rifle with the safety catch on, this faulty operation would have caused an undischarged bullet to be ejected, spilling onto the floor of the guard tower. Opus established that a person who was inexperienced in handling that type of rifle and its cocking lever rifle, it'd be easy to jam the rifle, and any attempt to clear the jam would result in a live round being ejected. On the 8th day of the trial, Ronald was sworn in and took the witness stand. He denied firing a shot, denied the alleged verbal confession said to have been made by him, and denied ever saying to anyone that he had shot a man. According to Ronald, they were after the reward money by making false allegations. After a trial in the Victorian Supreme Court lasting 12 days, Ronald was convicted of the murder of George Hodson and sentenced to death.
Wowzers.
After you'd have to be 8 foot tall to shoot it.
Yeah.
Asked if he had anything to say before sentencing, Ronald stated, "I still maintain my innocence. I will consult with my counsel with a view to appeal. That is all I have to say." Peter Walker was found not guilty of murder, but guilty of manslaughter and sentenced to 12 years imprisonment. He was also found guilty of manslaughter for the death of Arthur Henderson and received a 12-year sentence. And Peter was paroled in 1984. He died on the 5th of March, 2022 at the age of 80.
Oh, that wasn't long ago.
No, 2 years ago.
I want to know, though, did his wife divorce him after all that? Because is that not why he left prison? Because she was going to divorce him? And so he escaped?
I don't know. I don't know if I mentioned it.
You did. I'm pretty sure you said...
Oh, yeah, I just don't know if I...
Oh, right.
I know. Yeah, he's like, fuck, this bitch isn't divorcing me.
Like, was he trying to get back to her? Because he never went back there. So, like, did they get divorced? I'm confused.
I don't know.
Clearly it was worth it.
Because, yeah, he was out. They were out for 19 days. Like, surely you could have...
Been like, hey, bitch.
But, like, if you were to escape from prison, like, I feel like they would think you'd go to like your wife and children.
Yeah, but if that's why you were escaping in the first place, wouldn't you show your face?
Yeah, or try and make contact at least.
Yeah.
I don't know. Opus decided to appeal against the murder verdict. The appeal was to the Victorian Court of Criminal Appeal, a bench consisting of 3 judges of the Supreme Court. The basis of the appeal was that the verdict was against the weight of the evidence. He argued as a matter of the law that the inherent inconsistencies and improbabilities and even impossibilities in the evidence. The appeal was dismissed on the 8th of June 1966. On the 12th of December 1966, the State Executive Council announced that Ronald Ryan would hang on the 9th of January 1967. Ronald had a right to increased free legal assistance for expert forensic analysis, to hire expert witnesses, and to present a series of appeals and resources that were available to those facing execution by the government. The full court agreed that it was unthinkable that a man should be executed before he had exhausted his ultimate right of appeals. Opus, convinced of Ronald's innocence, agreed to work without pay. Opus consulted the Ethics Committee of the Bar Council to seek approval to make a public appeal for a solicitor prepared to brief him, as Opus was prepared to pay his travel and other expenses and would appear without fee. Opus then flew to London to present Ronald's case to the high judges in the Commonwealth. His execution was delayed by Premier Bolt, awaiting the Privy Council's decision. So this guy's like, I believe he's fucking innocent. I'm going to go all the way to London to consult the bloody Commonwealth to try and stop this. On the 23rd of January 1967, the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council refused Ronald's leave for appeal. On the 25th of January 1967, the State Executive Council set Ronald's execution date as the 3rd of February 1967. As it became apparent that Bolt intended to proceed with the execution, a secret 11th hour plea for mercy was made by 4 of the jury members. They sent petitioning letters to the Governor of Victoria, Sir Rowan Delacombe.
I think Delacombe.
I think it's Delacombe.
Delacombe.
Delacombe. It's spelled Delacombe. I think it's Delacombe because there's a Delacombe in Ballarat.
I think it's Delacombe.
Everything is leading back to Ballarat. Stating that in reaching their verdict, they believed that capital punishment had been abolished in Victoria and requested that the governor exercise the royal prerogative of mercy and commute Ronald's sentence of death. Such Melbourne newspapers as The Age, The Herald and The Sun, not The Herald Sun, all ran campaigns opposing the hanging of Ronald Ryan. The papers ran a campaign of spirited opposition on the grounds that the death penalty was barbaric. Churches, universities, unions, and a large number of the public and legal professionals opposed the death sentence. An estimated 18,000 people participated in street protests, and around 15,000 signed a petition against the hanging. Bolt denied all requests for mercy and was determined that Ronald Ryan would hang. On the afternoon of the eve of Ronald Ryan's hanging, Opus appeared before the trial judge, Justice John Stark, seeking a postponement of the execution due to the opportunity to test new pro-offered evidence. Opus pleaded with Stark and said, "Why the indecent haste to hang this man until we have tested all possible exploratory evidence?" Stark, however, rejected the application. Everyone's like, hey, the evidence match up. And they're like, fuck it, hang him.
Mm-hmm.
Do it.
Just do it.
And in the night, like late 1960s.
Yeah, that's pretty late for this shit.
And it was only like 60 years ago that we were still hanging people.
Yeah.
It's fucked.
I mean, they were still using the guillotine in the 70s in France.
Jesus Christ. Would like a little, get like a little cheese one? That evening, a former Pentridge prisoner, Alan John Kane, arrived in Melbourne from Brisbane in a new bid to save Ronald Ryan. An affidavit by Alan Kane, which was presented to Cabinet, says he and 7 prisoners were outside the cookhouse when they saw and heard a prisoner warden fire a shot from the number 1 guard post at Pentridge Prison the day Hodson was shot. Police had interviewed these prisoners, but none were called at the trial to give evidence.
Interesting.
Hey, we saw her be shot from a tower. Your evidence says he'd have to be at least 8 foot to shoot him. Hang him. How does it make sense?
Yeah, I don't think it does.
Kane was immediately rushed into a conference with solicitor Bernard Gaynor, who tried to contact cabinet ministers informing them of Kane's arrival. Gaynor telephoned Government House seeking an audience with the governor, Sir Rohan Delacombe. However, Gaynor was told by the Government House spokesman that nobody would be answering calls until 8 a.m. tomorrow, 1 hour after Ryan's scheduled execution.
Okay.
So we can't come to the phone right now.
Sorry, I can't come to the phone right now. I'm doing hot girl shit.
Yeah.
Doing hanging people shit.
Surely that's urgent if, like, hey, this new evidence has come up.
Yeah, but they just want to hang him.
Yeah, they just want to prove a point. You can't shoot prison officers, even though it probably wasn't him. At 11 p.m, Ronald was informed that his final petition for mercy had been rejected. More than 3,000 people gathered outside Pentridge Prison in protest of the hanging. Shortly before midnight, more than 200 police were at the prison to control the demonstrators. On the night before the execution, Ronald was transferred to a cell just steps away from the gallows trapdoor. Father Brosnan.
On your father.
Father
Brosnan.
Was with him most of this time. At the 11th hour, Ronald wrote his last letters to his family members, to his defense counsel, to the anti-hanging committee, and to Father Brosnan. The letters were handwritten on toilet paper inside his cell and neatly folded. Oh.
That's sad.
That's really sad. Ronald refused to have any sedatives, but he did have a nip of whiskey and walked calmly onto the gallows trapdoor. His last words were to the hangman, "God bless you, please make it quick." Fuck. And like...
God.
That
Imagine being given... Is there anything you would like to say for the last time ever to me before I pull the lever? Wrong lever.
And possibly being innocent as well.
Yeah.
Not even like being wrong place. Yeah, like, oh.
I mean, I wouldn't call him innocent,
Well,
but
no,
innocent
he did
of
rob
murder.
a lot of places.
Potentially innocent of murder.
Yeah, innocent of the thing that got him the death sentence. But yeah, fuck. Who was the one that said something about Disneyland? Was it Richard Ramirez?
I don't remember.
I don't know, there's a few fucked up ones.
Yeah.
Ronald Ryan was hanged in the D Division at Pentridge Prison at 8 a.m. on Friday, the 3rd of February 1967. A national 3-minute silence was observed by Ronald's supporters at the exact time that he was hung. His fellow prisoners staged their own protests. They refused to get out of bed, staged to sit in, refused to work or obey orders. There was an eerie silence throughout the prison. Later that day, Ronald's body was buried in an unmarked grave within the D Division prison facility. 40 years later, in 2007, the Victoria Premier John Brumby granted permission for Ronald's family members to have his body exhumed from Pentridge Prison after George Hodson's daughter jumped and danced on Ronald's grave. Yeah, after like possibly being innocent. Most from all this, most likely innocent, and this, shit that your dad got murdered, but it probably wasn't this guy. But then you go and
dance on his grave.
Yeah, jump and dance on his grave.
That is disrespectful.
That's ridiculous. His remains were cremated and placed next to his deceased wife in Portland Cemetery. Oh, sorry, deceased ex-wife.
Oh.
They did get divorced, but buried next to each other.
Interesting.
Is cremated and placed next to his deceased wife. Oh, is that like one of the little hole?
Could be.
The wall ones. Dad's in that bookshelf over there.
Dad.
That big box, and then my uncle's next to him, and then his dad's next to him.
Oh, how cute.
I have a graveyard in my bookshelf.
That's cute. My great-grandma is currently in my grandma's bedroom because we're waiting for her plaque.
Oh. Mine, so my uncle's name was Richard. We'd call him Dick.
Oh, yeah.
And when I got his ashes.
You got a dick in a box.
I got a bag of dick.
You got a bag of dick in a box.
Got a bag of dicks. He was spread into 2 boxes.
Oh.
Yeah. Because I was going to scatter them, but it was like 2021 when they died.
COVID.
Yeah. So I couldn't do anything. So now I just have a bag of dick. And
a dick in a box.
And a dick in a box. And a dad in a box. And a grandpa in a box.
Nice.
Would have been funny if one of their names was Jack.
Jack in a box.
Jack in a box. 19 years after Ronald's execution, former warden Doug Pascoe claimed on air to Channel 9 and other media that he had fired a shot during the escape. Doug Doug said his shot may have accidentally killed his fellow prison guard, George Hodson.
Yeah, maybe.
Why?
Mm.
He had not told anyone that he had fired a shot during the escape because at the time, quote, I was a 23-year-old coward. At least he admitted that he's a coward.
Yeah.
In 1986, he tried to sell his story, but his claim was dismissed by police because his rifle had a full magazine after the shooting and he was too far away.
But how do you know that it had a full magazine? Because didn't they also say that other blokes was also full?
And also, why would you admit to shooting someone when you didn't? Like,
Yeah.
someone's already been hung for it. Like,
Yeah, weird. Anyway.
yeah. An Australian criminologist, Gordon Hawkins, the director of Sydney's University Institute of Criminology, doubts the damning validity of the unsigned confession of Ronald in the television film documentary Beyond Reasonable Doubt. Although verbal confessions are not permissible in court, in the 1960s, the public and therefore the jury were much more trusting of the police.
Mm.
As to whether, as a result, an innocent man was hanged, there is at least a reasonable doubt following revelations of police corruption uncovered by various Australian police royal commissions. Australian police have to record or tape all interviews they carry out in connection with a crime. The police had no evidence of these unsigned verbal confessions. Ronald signed only a statement saying that he would not be given any statements, verbal or written, to anyone except his lawyer. Now, sign a statement saying I'm not giving any statements. Gordon Hawkins questioned why Ronald, a seasoned criminal, would suddenly feel the need to tell all to the police. In 1993, a former Pentridge prisoner, Harold Sheehan, claimed he had witnessed the shooting but had not come forward at the time. Why? Why are people not coming fucking forward when shit's happening? Harold Sheehan saw Ronald on his knees when the shot rang out, and therefore he could not have inflicted the wound that had killed Hodson, which passed in a downward trajectory.
Yeah, well, if you're on your knees, that's going upwards.
Ah, what if you pew? And then I really need to learn how to articulate, not just use my hands.
Yeah.
You probably get the gist of what I meant though.
Yeah, no. But if he's on his knees and if he's shooting someone, it's going up through their chest.
Yeah,
not down.
when this one's down. And like 14 other people said they saw him standing. They just they couldn't remember if it was on the left or right of him. All prison authorized M1 carbine rifles, including that seized by Ronald from Lang, were issued loaded with 8-round bullets. 7 of the 8 were accounted for in Ronald's case. The 8th fell onto the floor of the prison watchtower when he cocked the rifle with the safety latch on, thereby injecting a live round, when the bullet that killed Hodson must have been fired by a person other than Ronald Ryan.
Because otherwise there would have been 6 left in his gun.
Yeah, because when he did the watchtower, so he would have, during that time was when he had helmet.
Yeah, he cocked it, lost a bullet, so there's 7. But if there's only 8, then he hasn't actually fired one.
And did they check everyone else's guns? And by the time the other idiot confessed that he had shot someone?
19 years later?
Yeah, no one's checking that gun. It's probably gone.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah, from all that,
Who knows?
there's enough doubt to not hang him.
Yeah.
But they did it anyway, I think, they probably knew the death penalty was going and wanted to get one more in there. And to like prove a point that you can't escape consequences, all that shit. Like,
Don't escape prison. Don't kill.
it was a prison officer. It was a
Yeah.
policeman.
Yeah. Did they ever get in trouble for shooting fuck knuckle in the back of the head? Christine's mate? Boyfriend?
Oh, yeah, the guy got 12 years for that.
Oh, you did too.
Yeah, the one that, and then he
I
got
know.
paroled.
I recall.
It's that guy, yes.
Yep.
It was
I recall.
It was convicted of manslaughter, so I don't know how he spun that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, they probably couldn't prove it.
Yeah, if it's your word against his and he's dead, there's not a lot of
Yeah.
evidence to that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was our first Australian one.
Yeah.
4 episodes in and we've come to Australia. Victoria.
Where are we going to go next?
We got Australia, America, Australia. Not sure yet. Australia. Blank.
Nice.
But yes, we hop back and forth from America to Australia, and There's some in the UK as well, again.
There's some sprinkled elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, they're kind of the main 3 big ones, I feel. Like there's obviously there's obviously murders all over the
Over
place.
the world.
But yes. I think,
Everywhere there's people, there is murder.
and we will never run out of content because people just keep peopling and keep murdering people.
I'm going to put that on a shirt.
People just keep peopling.
Yep.
Put on a mug.
Let's get your cricket back out. Make some shirts.
I've nearly slipped back into that hyperfixation.
Do it. Do it. Let's make t-shirts.
I had Nan over on like Saturday and she asked for a cup of tea. And the only mug left in my little coffee display was my mug that says probably thinking about food or serial killers.
Oh, don't give that to Nan.
No, I got her one with cute little birds on it. But I did show her. I said, did you want this one? She's like, oh, probably not. And someone else had to take over making the tea because I fucked it up.
Nice.
Not good. And then I nearly gave her expired milk because it was There was 2 jugs of milk. It was used by Saturday, so it was still fine. It expired on that day. Yes. Well.
Anyway.
You can follow us on Instagram at
DisorganisedDetectives.
And if you'd like to email us, you can email us cases or stories or love letters. We'll end up with a fucking baby reindeer. Have you watched that yet?
No.
Oh,
I'm still being petty.
you need to watch it because she just got interviewed by Piers Morgan.
I did see.
Oh.
I've seen it everywhere, and I'm still being petty because I'm still like, bitch, you cheated on me. Went to work on a night shift, supposed to be working, didn't. Watched Baby Reindeer with some other bitch. Still being petty.
It is quite funny because she's like, I haven't even watched the show. I'm so offended by it or whatever the fuck. She's got photos on Facebook of her like watching Baby Reindeer, and then she's like described shit in the show, and I was like, you haven't watched it, but you've described shit from the show.
You've watched it, love.
And then she's like, oh, I don't know if he's got voicemails of me. He could have recorded my voice at the pub, but I've only met him like 6 times. And everyone's like, so in 6 times someone's been able to create 350 voicemails?
Yeah, I still haven't watched it yet.
Jesus.
Did you just hit your head on the mic?
Well, yes, we'll see you, hear you.
We'll speak to you.
We'll speak
You will
to you.
listen. We will be here.
We'll be in your ear holes next week.
Yep. 2 hearings.
2 with 2 ear holes, not just one.
Yep, both.
If you gave up after the first episode, please come back. We fixed the audio.
Or maybe don't. Because this is interesting.
What?
I don't know. Please come back.
Maybe come back. All right. Bye-bye.